Hey everyone, welcome back. We're diving into a topic you all specifically requested this week, the fusion of Web3 and AI. It's really a potent mix that has the potential to completely reshape the digital world as we know it. You guys sent over this super interesting article that I think is really going to be a great jumping off point. It's called Web3 Technology and its Benefits when Combined with AI. And it was published on LinkedIn by Rick Spare just a couple of days ago.
Yeah, it's a great piece. It really does highlight the potential. It's not about, building a faster internet or a flashier internet. It's really about fundamentally changing how we interact online, how we create and share value, and even how we, govern ourselves in the digital realm.
Right. Okay. So before we get ahead of ourselves and get lost in all the, crazy possibilities, let's take a step back and think about the evolution of the web. So Web 1.0, that was like the giant digital library, right? Mostly static pages. Then we got Web 2.0, the social web, where all these platforms like Facebook and Twitter connected us, but also started controlling our data in ways we didn't really expect.
Yeah, and that's where Web 3 comes in. So instead of relying on the centralized platforms, it's all about giving users control, putting them back in the driver's seat of their digital lives.
And that's when things get really interesting. So it's not just some philosophical shift, right?
Yeah.
It's powered by some seriously groundbreaking tech.
Absolutely. Blockchain, for example, is like the core component of Web 3. So instead of having, that central authority controlling a ledger, imagine a distributed ledger that anyone can access. That transparency just fosters trust in a way that traditional systems can't really match.
Yeah, it's not just about keeping track of transactions, right? It's about having a system where anyone can verify the authenticity and history of that information. So that could be financial transactions, it could be digital assets, even medical records.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And that's just, one part of it. You have smart contracts that automate agreements and cut out the middleman, streamlining those interactions. And then you have, DApps, which are these decentralized applications that run on blockchain networks, offering services that are just more secure and more transparent than traditional options.
Okay, so I'm curious, when we talk about blockchain, isn't there this whole debate about all these different types of consensus mechanisms, like proof of work versus proof of stake? How do those fit into this picture?
Yeah, that's a great question. You're right. So the way that a blockchain reaches consensus on, the validity of transactions is really, really crucial. So proof of work, which is what Bitcoin uses, it relies on miners solving all these complex math problems, but that uses a lot of energy. Proof of stake, on the other hand, selects validators based on the number of tokens that they hold, which is more energy efficient. So choosing the right consensus mechanism is a big consideration when you're designing Web3 applications.
Got it. So the technology behind Web3 is already super complex and it's always evolving. And then we throw AI into the mix. Is there even a simple way to define AI? What does it actually mean?
So at its core, AI is about creating systems that can perform tasks that normally require human intelligence. So learning, problem solving, recognizing patterns. It's really about simulating cognitive functions to automate tasks and help us make better decisions.
It's amazing how AI is already woven into our daily lives.
Yeah.
Getting personalized recommendations on Netflix. That's machine learning, right?
Exactly. And think about natural language processing. That allows us to interact with our devices just using our voice, like when you ask Siri or Alexa a question. And then there's computer vision driving those advancements in self-driving cars and facial recognition tech.
Well, it's one thing to have AI, analyzing my movie preferences. But then you see it being used in healthcare diagnostics or managing traffic in smart cities. And you really get a sense of how impactful this technology really is.
The applications are truly vast, and they're only going to expand. AI technology is continuing to evolve at just an incredible pace.
So we have these two powerful forces. We have Web3 pushing towards this more decentralized internet. And then we have AI with this crazy ability to analyze data and make intelligent decisions. What happens when those two forces collide?
That's where the real magic starts to happen. They actually complement each other beautifully.
Okay, I'm ready for the sparks to fly.
AI can really, dive into all that data flowing through these blockchain networks. It can give us insights and predictions that we've never really had before. And at the same time, Web3 can, tackle some of those issues around AI, like transparency and, who controls the data.
Okay, so it's like this two-way street where each tech is kind of boosting the other.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any real-world examples of this synergy in action? What does it actually look like?
Absolutely. Decentralized autonomous organizations, or DAOs, are a great example.
Wait, DAOs? Those always sounded like something straight out of like a sci-fi novel to me. Can we back up for a second? What are they?
Okay, so think of a DAO as like a community-governed organization. It operates transparently on a blockchain. So instead of, that traditional hierarchical structure, you have decisions being made collectively by the members, often through voting, and all the rules of engagement are like baked into the code of the smart contracts.
So instead of having like, CEO calling all the shots, you have this distributed group of people making decisions together, and everything's tracked and verified on the blockchain. That sounds pretty radical, but is it actually working in the real world?
There's one example that comes to mind. It's a DAO that manages a community-owned solar farm. So members vote on how to, allocate the energy that's generated. And the profits are distributed fairly among all the stakeholders. The transparency of the blockchain makes sure that everything is, above board. And they even use AI to optimize the energy distribution based on real-time data.
That's awesome. So it's not just theoretical. These DAOs are actually being used to solve real problems, which kind of leads to the question, how does AI specifically enhance these DAOs? What's the added value?
Well, AI can really supercharge those DAO operations, analyzing all that data, identifying patterns that humans might miss making predictions that can really inform those decisions.
So in the solar farm example, AI could analyze weather patterns and energy consumption trends, and then predict future demand and adjust the energy distribution accordingly.
Exactly. This combination of, decentralized governance and AI-powered insights, it creates this powerful new model for how we can organize and manage, these complex systems. And it's not just limited to energy. We're seeing DAOs pop up in everything from venture capital to the arts.
Wow, that makes a lot of sense. It's like disrupting all these traditional power structures. What about finance? I've heard so much about DeFi or decentralized finance, and how it's really shaking things up.
DeFi is all about creating, financial services that are open and accessible and transparent, cutting out those traditional intermediaries like banks. And AI is playing a huge role in making DeFi smarter and more efficient.
Okay, but isn't there some risk in handing over financial decisions to AI? How do we know that those algorithms are, making the right choices?
That's where the transparency of Web3 really shines. A lot of times, these AI algorithms in DeFi are open source, meaning anyone can inspect the code and understand how those decisions are being made. That open source nature just makes it easier for the community to, identify and address any potential biases or flaws in the system.
Got it. So it's not like blind trust in AI. It's about using Web3 to kind of hold these systems accountable and make sure they're working as intended.
Precisely. And AI can also help to mitigate risks in DeFi. It can analyze market data, assess those risk profiles, and even flag any suspicious activity to prevent fraud.
So it's like this give and take relationship. Web3 provides that transparency and trust. And AI brings the analytical firepower to make DeFi more secure and more efficient. That's pretty amazing. But what about the human side of things? How are Web3 and AI impacting the creative world?
That's one of the most exciting areas. We're already seeing AI tools that can generate art music, even written content. But when you combine that with Web3, you create this whole new paradigm for content creation and ownership.
So it's almost like AI is becoming this creative collaborator. It's not about replacing artists. It's about giving them new tools to explore and express their vision.
Right. And Web3 makes sure that creators retain ownership and control over their work. Think about NFTs or non-fungible tokens. They're unique digital assets that are verified on a blockchain. So artists can, sell their creations directly to collectors, cutting out the middleman and actually earning royalties every time their work is resold.
Wow. It's like giving creators superpowers. They can connect with their audience directly, build communities, and monetize their work in ways that were never possible before. It's about putting that power back in the hands of the creators. But beyond the individual creator, what about larger scale applications? How might Web3 and AI transform entire industries like healthcare or supply chain management?
Let's take healthcare, for example. Imagine a world where patients have complete control over their medical records, stored securely on a blockchain. And then AI can analyze that data to identify patterns and provide personalized treatment recommendations, all while still preserving patient privacy.
That would be huge. No more fragmented medical records scattered across all these different providers. Patients would actually own their data and could choose how it's used, whether it's for personalized treatment or contributing to medical research.
Exactly. And in supply chain management, the combination of Web3 and AI can bring transparency and traceability to like every step of the process. So from sourcing raw materials to delivering the final product, every transaction can be recorded on a blockchain, ensuring authenticity and ethical practices.
So consumers could like verify the origin of a product, knowing exactly where it came from and how it was made. And businesses could, optimize their supply chains, reduce waste, and make better decisions.
It's about building trust, accountability, and efficiency across entire industries.
Wow. The possibilities are just endless. But like with any new technology, there are always challenges, right? Like what are some of the hurdles that we need to overcome as we go deeper into this Web3 AI world?
Well, one of the biggest challenges is scalability. Current blockchain infrastructures sometimes struggle to handle the massive amounts of data and processing power that AI needs. So finding ways to make these systems, more efficient and robust is crucial if we want to see wider adoption.
That makes sense. You need a solid foundation to support these complex applications.
Yeah.
What about interoperability? There are just so many different blockchain platforms and AI systems out there. How do we make sure they can all work together?
Yeah, that's a key challenge. We need to develop standards and protocols that allow for interoperability between different systems so that data and applications can move freely across, the entire Web3 ecosystem.
So instead of like these walled gardens, we need an open and interconnected landscape where all these different technologies can complement each other.
Exactly. We need to move away from that fragmented approach and towards a more collaborative ecosystem where innovation can actually thrive.
These are all really important considerations. But even with those challenges, the momentum behind Web3 and AI is undeniable.
Absolutely. It feels like we're really on the cusp of something truly transformative.
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit and look further down the road. What does the future hold for Web3 and AI?
Now we're getting into the realm of speculation, but that's where things get really exciting.
Okay, let's journey into this speculative realm. What are some of the most mind-bending possibilities that this convergence could unlock?
Well, one concept that always gets people thinking is the emergence of decentralized artificial general intelligence, or AGI.
Decentralized AGI. That sounds like something straight out of a, science fiction movie. What does that even mean?
Okay, so instead of having an AI system that's controlled by like a single company, imagine an AGI that operates on a decentralized network like a blockchain. Its development and deployment would be, governed by a community, making sure that it's transparent and aligns with the values of its creators.
Okay, so instead of a powerful AI that's controlled by a corporation or government, it would be more like a collective intelligence, right?
Yeah.
Distributed across a network and accountable to the people who built it.
Exactly. That kind of decentralized approach to AGI development could help address, some of those ethical concerns that people have about AI, making sure it's used to benefit like all of humanity, not just a select few.
That's a pretty radical idea.
Yeah.
But it's also incredibly exciting. If we could actually pull this off, crack the code on decentralized AGI, what kind of impact could that have on the world?
Oh, possibilities are really mind-boggling. Imagine a decentralized AGI working with scientists to accelerate, those medical breakthroughs, or collaborating with engineers to come up with, sustainable algae solutions. It could help us tackle some of the most complex challenges that we're facing.
Wow, it's like having a super intelligent partner working alongside us to solve those problems that have stumped us for centuries. But I gotta ask, is this something that we'll actually see in our lifetime? Or is this more of a far-off futuristic dream?
That's tough to say for sure. AGI, even in its centralized form, is still in those early stages. But the pace of technological development is just accelerating so rapidly. Who knows what breakthroughs are right around the corner?
Well, fingers crossed. But while we wait for decentralized AGI to, arrive, what about more immediate advancements? What kind of impact could we see from Web3 and AI in the next few years?
I think one area where we're going to see a lot of disruption is the creator economy.
You mentioned that a bit earlier. I'm curious to hear more about how this duo will reshape the creative world.
So imagine artists, musicians, writers. They can use all these AI tools to boost their creativity, streamline their workflows, and reach new audiences. And at the same time, Web3 gives them ownership of their work, control over how it's distributed, and they can earn fair compensation.
Got it. So it's not just about making it easier to create stuff. It's about giving creators more control over their careers.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
Exactly. AI helps those artists push the boundaries of creativity, and Web3 makes sure that they benefit directly from their work. It's all about empowering people to build those sustainable careers on their own terms.
Yeah, I love that vision of the future. What other areas of our lives might be transformed by this convergence in the near future?
Well, what about smart cities? We're already seeing cities experimenting with AI to improve traffic flow, optimize energy consumption and enhance public safety.
So it's about using AI to make cities more efficient, more livable, and more responsive to the needs of the people who live there.
Right. And with blockchain technology, we can ensure transparency and accountability in how those systems are managed and governed. Citizens could have a direct say in how their city is run. They could use decentralized platforms to vote on proposals and, track how resources are allocated.
That's exciting. It's about giving power to the citizens and making city governance more democratic and responsive.
Yeah.
Are there any other areas where you see Web3 and AI making a big splash in the next few years?
Education is definitely ripe for disruption. Just imagine AI-powered tutoring systems that can personalize learning based on, each student's individual needs, adapting to different learning styles and giving custom feedback.
Wow. So instead of that one-size-fits-all approach to education, each student gets a tailored learning experience, one that actually caters to their unique strengths and weaknesses.
Exactly. And with Web3, students could have more control over their own educational data. They could earn credentials that are securely stored and verifiable on a blockchain, and even participate in these decentralized learning communities that connect them with, peers and mentors from all over the world.
It's about making education more accessible, more engaging, and more relevant for the 21st century learner. It's really amazing to think about all the possibilities that Web3 and AI unlock. It seems like every area of our lives will be touched by this convergence.
It's true. From personalized healthcare and decentralized finance to, AI-powered creativity and smarter cities, this convergence has the potential to really reshape our world.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I think it's important to remember that, we're not just passive observers in this technological revolution. We all have a role to play in shaping how these technologies are developed and used.
That's a great point. This isn't about, blindly embracing technology. It's about having those conversations, thinking about the ethical implications, and working together to make sure these advancements benefit everyone.
So to our listener out there, we encourage you to stay curious, keep learning, and get involved in those discussions that are shaping the future of Web3 and AI. The future is being written right now, and your voice matters. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the intersection of Web3 and AI. We hope you've learned a thing or two and are feeling inspired to explore this exciting frontier further.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep pushing those boundaries of what's possible.
We'll catch you on the next episode of The Deep Dive.